Good morning. I just wanted to do a quick video intro to my art lesson just to let everybody know thinking about you. I really miss you guys. I hope you're all doing well. We're going to go over just basic supplies, which is what I'm going to be using for every art lesson, but you will be able to modify that, and I'll go over the modifications with you. The first things that we're going to be using, some pretty basic supplies, would be just a white piece of paper. You can use this for every art project. We will be using a pencil. This is basic supply. These are the basics I'm going over right now. We will be using crayons, any color crayons that you want. Please make sure you have a black, because you know I like to outline in black to make all of the colors show up. So we are going to be using a black crayon. Some alternatives to the white paper would be brown paper sacks. You can use a grocery bag. This one is what you would actually put your groceries in from the grocery store. You can ask for those instead of plastic if you don't already have them. And these lunch sacks, these brown paper lunch sacks, these are really great for, I'll show you how to cut these open and open them up so that you have a full piece of paper. If you have these on hand, if you don't have white paper, you can use colored paper for some of our projects. You can use old mail. I don't have a piece of junk mail. Now use junk mail, use something that doesn't have personal information on it. Ask your parents before you get into the mail. Don't be opening up a bill and using one of their bills and then the bill doesn't get paid. That would not be good. Anyway, ask your parents for a piece of junk mail if you don't have just a piece of white paper or any of the options that I showed you. You can use cardboard. I have cardboard stashed. You can use cardboard from packages that come in the mail. You can use cardboard from a cereal box. Please be sure that you're not taking the cereal out. You know, ask your parents for these supplies before you get them, especially if it's something that's being used right now. Cereal boxes, a lot of times a cereal bag is in there, but it still needs to be wrapped up in something so it, and sealed so it doesn't go bad. And then you can just cut up the box. Okay, so I had mentioned before that there were different types of paper that you could use for as art paper, okay? These are all, I have a couple brown paper bags that are already cut up, and I have a box of cereal box. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you with this paper bag how I cut the other two paper bags already, and then I'll show you the box. So the first thing I did was with the smaller bag, and it's going to be the same thing with this large grocery bag. You're going to do the same exact process. So we're going to open it up. I'm going to cut along the seam that is the side of the bag. So if I'm holding the bag up like this, it's going to be the side like that, okay? And we're just going to come all the way down to the bottom, like this. And then you are going to cut this bag, or this bottom of this bag, out. Okay, so now I have this small piece. I can save this. I love to save stuff like this to use for art. So I'm going to set that aside. So after we do that, we have this nice big piece of paper that you can use. You can also cut this in half. I already cut this other bag that I had in half, so you can see that I would have two smaller pieces, or you can leave it as one large piece. I did the same process with the larger bag. So I cut down the side, cut the bottom off, and then I ended up actually cutting this down the middle because this was really long. This was a really big piece. And so I now have 2 large pieces that I can use for something else. You can also cut these into 2 so that you would have 4 pieces if you want to. It's up to you. It's up to how you want to have your paper. You can have it larger or smaller. So I'm going to move these to the side, and this is our cereal box. Now, I had already taken this box apart. I don't have another one, so I'm just going to kind of show you from what I have. So after I take the cereal pouches out, I flatten out the box, and then I'm going to look for a spot that has a seam on it. So you would have this. I actually cut that. That's not what we're looking for. The box is flat, so I turn it over, and then I'm like, oh, okay. Here we go. This area right here has a seam. So I would put my finger under here, pull it up, and then slowly pull this back so that it comes open. And then I'm going to open this side, and then I would cut along this edge here. See, there's all of these folds that we have on these boxes. And so I cut mine out, and now I can use this. I would probably cut it again, and then I could cut this one also. And there we go. You can cut the flaps off and use those. Lots of uses for the brown paper and the cardboard from the cereal boxes. Pen or pencil options. Like I said, we can use a pencil. You can use... this is a Papermate Flare. This is actually not a permanent, so I would not use any watercolor with this, but you can use this instead of a pencil or a Sharpie. Sharpies are great because you can use them with all mediums, crayons, watercolor, markers, and they won't bleed, but only if you only need a Sharpie if you're using those other mediums. And I also have just a basic black ink pen. This ink pen is, again, you can use this like you're going to use the pencil. You can use this as long as you're not using any water on it or a marker. You may be able to use marker, but it'll probably bleed. So these are options instead of a pencil. I am going to be doing all of my drawings in pencil, all the projects I'm going to do in pencil. I'm going with all of the basics because I know not everybody is going to have the other supplies, and that's okay. You're still going to be able to make some really fun, cute projects with these supplies. Okay, so the coloring options. I'm opting for crayons in my videos. So I have crayons, I have colors, and I have black crayons. The black crayon I'm going to leave out, and then of course you'll have color options when we are coloring. Watercolor paints. If you have watercolor paints, you can sub these at times, and I will tell you the times when you're going to be able to sub watercolor. Depends on the paper you're using. And then markers. These are actually watercolor markers. I have other markers that I might use sometimes. Not in these videos, but if you have markers, if you have watercolor markers, you can use those. You can use any markers that you have. And so now that I have that, I've gone over all of the supplies. Remember, this is stuff that we are going to be using throughout each of the art lessons that I'm doing with you guys. I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy that I get to do this with you while you're quarantining at home. Know that I'm thinking about all of you. My heart is blessed by being able to do this. So let's get started. So here is our first lesson we're going to do. And this one is going to be for 1st and 2nd grade. It's the Make-A-Wish Sometimes we call these wishies. You see them outside. They're actually dandelion flowers. That is the actual name of this flower. It's called a dandelion flower. And I am doing this on plain white paper. So for this project, you are going to need, you can pause this video to get your supplies that you need. You will be needing a circle, any kind of circle. I'm using my color wheel. You can see the size that I have on my paper. You don't want anything too big. This is going to be our guideline for these outer bits of the flower, okay? Dandelions. So that's going to help create this perimeter that I did. And then we will do, we're going to add our stem. We will add the tips, and then we will add this at the end, okay? And that says make a wish in case you couldn't read that. So we are going to need a pencil, paper, something to make a nice circle with. It doesn't have to be huge. Like you can see, I have a bowl in here. I do not want it that big. So a cup will work. I have a paint cup here. This is what I use for my water, for my paints. We're gonna need different colored crayons, which I have. And you could choose to do maybe 2 colors. We'll get there. Just make sure you have crayons and your black crayon, of course, different colored crayons, and a pencil. Okay. Or you can do this with a Sharpie, any of the other alternatives that I gave you. Okay. So you're just going to put this on your paper. You can come center a little more. I like mine a little bit off to the side. I don't want it perfectly centered. And around these edges, I have mine marked. It doesn't have to be marked perfectly. I am following the guides of my color wheel. And I'm just making these very small loops like this. They kind of look like little raindrops all the way around. Make them open enough that you're going to be able to put the color in there around it and then color that in with the black. Okay, so you can kind of see what I did here. I made loops. I want to be able to put black on there. Okay, so after I've gone all the way around here, I am going to remove my template, and in the middle, as best I can in the middle, I'm going to make a circle. This circle doesn't have to be super big. You can see that there. And I'll kind of bring this up for you so you can see. See how I did that with the circle? And you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to switch over to Sharpie and do this with Sharpie so that you all can really see it. Okay? You don't have to do this in Sharpie if you don't have a Sharpie. I am doing this so that you can see better as I'm filming this. Okay? Let me just finish these up real quick. There we go. Way better. Okay. So now the next step we're going to do, we are going to come out from our center. You don't need to color this in. We'll do that later. But you are going to add lines like this coming out to each of these little raindrops we made, the tips of our dandelion. Okay. So after you have that, we're actually going to add some more. Okay. So I'm going to kind of come in between here, and I want to add some raindrops that come around like this. You can see they're not perfect shape. That's okay. It doesn't need to be perfect, right? We're not looking for perfection. We want this to be fun. Okay, and then you're going to add these lines coming in again like this. If you get in the middle a little bit like I did, that's okay. Okay, so now I have my dandelions going around like that. And then I'm going to add just a little bit more. Okay, so we have this line of our dandelions. Maybe come in and look in areas and see, I could probably add one coming up right here. Maybe I could do one coming out over here. Just adding a few that come in between. When we put our template down, I made those going around the outside of the template. Now I'm going just past those. Just adding a little bit more. Remember to keep these spaced open so that, see, this one I made pretty small. That's okay. I'm not going to worry about it. Does not have to be absolutely perfect, right? And then after I'm finished, I'm going to add one more right here. Okay, now I feel like I'm finished. After I finish that, I'm going to put the lid on my pen or set my pencil aside, and then I am going to start adding my color. If you have watercolors or markers, it's kind of the same thing. Markers are going to be a little bit darker, more saturated in color. So now we are going to choose the colors that we want to use for our dandelion. I have a color wheel here. This is the one that I use to make my outline here, to do the outer pieces of this flower. Now we're going to choose the colors that we want to use for our dandelion. I have my color wheel that I'm going to use. These are warm colors. These are cool colors. Remember, we've talked about that. You can maybe do, as you choose your colors, you might want to pick something that has red, orange, yellow. You can do maybe blue, green, yellow, green. You could do rainbow. You get to choose whatever colors you want to use for your dandelion. I have my colors picked out. I'm actually going to use 3 colors only. Again, you can use any colors that you want to use. I chose this green, which is kind of a teal. Oh, robin's egg blue. This is sea green, and this is dandelion. Huh. Dandelion yellow. Okay, so I am going to use these colors, and as I do this, I'm going to take one color and just start coloring around the areas that we did with our marker or our pencil. Again, if you have a Sharpie, go ahead and use a Sharpie to outline these. If you don't worry about it. You can use a black regular ink pen. You want these to be nice and dark. See how I'm going right around the outside? I'm just circling around, randomly adding this color to different areas of my flower. Okay. And because I'm only doing 3 colors, I want to add a lot. And now I'm going to move to my next color, going all the way around like this. Be sure your color is saturated. That means that it's dark. You want a nice dark color around here. Okay. If you're doing this with watercolor, you can just put the watercolor right on top of those. 1 dot is all it will take of watercolor. Right on top of these, it will spread, and then as we add the black, it will cover this little white area here. Okay, this is going to add some depth to our dandelion. Okay, and I think I'm going to add another one over here. I'm just kind of looking to see where I need to add more of this color. And I think I'm going to go right here. Okay. And now I'm going to pick my 3rd color. This will really add some pop to this dandelion. I like the contrast of the bright yellow with those 2 greens. Or the green and blue, I should say. I'm not going to worry if I get inside of this white area, because I'm going to be covering that up anyway. All the way around like that. I I really love these colors together. Okay, so after I do that, and I finished all of my colors, now I'm going to color in these little raindrop areas. These are the tips on the dandelions. I encourage you, if you can, if you see any of the little dandelions outside, remember those are the ones, they're white typically when you see them outside, they're real fuzzy looking. Go out and pick one and really look at it. And then make a wish and blow, and all those seeds, these are actually the seeds of the dandelion, will fly around from the breath, from your breath. Okay, don't forget the center right here. And then we're going to trace over all of our lines with the black crayon or black Sharpie. Remember I said that before. You can go over these lines with the black like this. And I'm not worried that these aren't exact. Crayons sometimes can be a little bit more challenging. My paper moved. That's okay. Remember, we're not looking for perfection. We're just trying to have fun with these. All the way around. I'm going to move my paper so that I'm not struggling to try and draw the lines going out this way, because that's going to be more challenging. Okay. And we're going to do this all the way around until we have all of our lines covered like that. Okay. I'm going to turn it back. And then I'm going to just come in right in the middle of this area, and I'm going to make a stem that curves down like this. You can go back over that so it's nice and dark. And then we're going to write off to the side here. Make a wish. Okay. And those are our dandelions for first and second grade.